Hello. I'm going to read a story by Martin Benson, who was at the Priory with Mr. Gurdjieff in the old days. He says, one Saturday Mr. Gurdjieff left the Priory with, I think, 5 people. I only recognised the Russian typist and Dr. Sternoval, and here they were, off to Vichy. At about 8 o'clock that evening I got a call from Vichy. They had been in a terrible automobile accident and were being treated in the hospital. Mr. Gurdjieff was driving and was in the hospital too. How the accident happened does not matter, but I gathered it happened as Mr. Gurdjieff avoided hitting a chicken or some animal. At this time the Russians, Mr. Gurdjieff's family, were living in Paradou, and all the Russian women became very hysterical. When they came back from Vichy, Mr. Gurdjieff looked like a battlefield, but he brought them all home. We courted the women who had been on the trip in various rooms. Dr. Sternoval had a hole in his ankle. I think that he never recovered from that hole and that it finally killed him. Anyway, Mr. Gurdjieff chased all the women out and he said to me, "Benson, you take care of all the people." He did not want hysterical people around. He ordered a bottle of Vieux Marc for every room. That is the toughest damn liquor in the world. I went from one room to the other. I told Dr. Sternoval, "You should go to the hospital." But he was very stubborn and said, "Oh no." In fact, they all should have been in the hospital. I went in and out of each room all that time. "You know these metal clips they used instead of stitches?" Well, Mr. Gurdjieff sat on the bed completely undressed. "Take all these clips off," he said to me. I said, "I've no experience and I've no tools." "Make tools. Get tools. Get these things out." I got a pair of pliers and a screwdriver, and I balled them to sterilize them. But I told him that if he started to bleed I would have to get him to the hospital again right away. This was at 11 o'clock on Saturday evening. I tore up sheets and made tourniquets. Mr. Gurdjieff looked awful, and we sat there and drank Vieux Marc. I had sense enough to know that you can only keep tourniquets on for 50 minutes and then you ease them off slowly. Mr. Gurdjieff did not say a word, he just drank. It was absolute torture. I got masses of clips out of him. The thing was that when I started slowly easing and taking the tourniquet off, he did not bleed. He just sat there, and finally I got him to bed. I went outside and sat outside of his door, looking in now and then. He was asleep. I felt he knew what he was doing. On my way down to my gatehouse, I looked everyone over in the various rooms. I took some Marc with me, and threw myself down. I guess I had slept 1 hour when I heard the gate click. And there he was, completely dressed, hobbling with a walking stick. I rushed out and said, "At least wait for me." I called a taxi at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning in France. At least I had him sitting and waiting for me. He was going to walk up the hill to Fontainebleau. As we sat waiting for the cab, Mr. Gurdjieff said, "Benson, I'll tell you something. My aim is to finish Beelzebub, and not even death will stop me." We got to the low dive Henry IV dance hall in Fontainebleau. I gave the taxi driver money to stay right there and wait for us. God knows we didn't have any money. The place was open but nobody was in there. It was full of cigarette smoke and the atmosphere of a whirligig dance hall after a whole Saturday night. I sat him down. Mr. Gurdjieff said, "Make coffee." I looked around, made coffee and sat in a corner wondering what he was writing. He was working on the My Father chapter. It didn't matter if we were in a house of prostitution. Wherever life was, that's where he wanted to be, because he absorbed these wasted emotions, this wasted life energy, for his own strength. After an hour or so he said, "We go home." I got him to bed. He said, "Take care of everyone." And I did. Mr. Gurdjieff slept. He'd done his job. He could sleep now. Dr. Sternoval was the worst hurt. For the others it was not so bad. Mr. Gurdjieff healed faster than all the rest put together, and I wondered about that. Believe me, these were days I shall never forget. When that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass half darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. Beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. For charity never faileth.